It's Christmas, and I send my warmest wishes to our soldiers, especially those fighting in the northeast. It is evident that you've defeated Boko Haram. That's a quote taken out of the Chief of Army Staff, Tukur Burtai's Christmas message to soldiers. Well, he said this defeat is why the Daredevil group has resorted to propaganda to demoralize the military. Burtai said it is important to be apolitical as we approach the 2019 elections. It is evident that you have defeated the Boko Haram terrorists. Thus, they have now resorted to exploiting and employing propaganda in order to demoralize you by spreading false messages and strength and invisibility. I thank you all for the good job you've done in 2018 and look forward to us making greater progress in 2019. End of quote. Well, that's the Christmas message for the soldiers. Well, it's Christmas. That hasn't actually slowed down the 2019 train. It's boiling. Stove on, pot on fire. It's cooking time. It's Political Stew. I'm Sulaiman Aled. Welcome. It's a week to 2019, and many Nigerians, especially politicians, have one thing in mind: the elections. Statements, visits, comments, opinions, prayers, food are usually interpreted to mean campaign, endorsement, even approval. Well, the social media is not free of this fight. As they say, the internet never forgets. Mind what you say now, as it's already too late for some. Also, mind what you believe, because some of what you see or hear aren't close to being the truth. You can get to watch us live online on the go at tvcnews.tv/live streaming. We're on live on YouTube, TVC News Nigeria Live, and youtube.com/Political Stew. You can also watch us live on Facebook, and remember to download the Political Stew app on Google Play Store and follow the news and politics. By the way, Political Stew is also now on iOS. Well, a quick one here. President Buhari, did you catch him singing the Christmas song? Well, if you haven't, well, let's catch that now.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. And we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, a whole lot happening as we move towards 2019, and today we've been joined by Kasim Afegwa, his spokesperson for the PDP Presidential Campaign Organization. Good to have you join us live.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
The last time we were together in Abuja, and now you're officially in the kitchen.
Well, you haven't served me anything in your kitchen.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to serve you now. We're trying to serve you what 2019 holds, and perhaps this time you'll be the one serving the people. And for many Nigerians, they are amazed that 2019 is what will define what will happen in that particular moment of election. I'm trying to bring this from where you come in and how you have actually said a whole lot of things and how it panned out. I recall our last conversation when we had that split from the APC before ultimately you moved towards the PDP. Yeah. You did say that it was going to see a lot of other people moving from one
APC,
party, specifically you said from the APC to the PDP. Is that what it is at the moment now? Because we haven't actually seen any movement lately.
Well, you can't see further movements because except for 1 or 2 persons who will move, the issue is simply that primaries have been over. Those who are contested election for 2019 have been known, and the coalitions have been built. In the last count, we had 45 political parties under the Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP. And endorsement have been made of the candidature of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. So alliances have been built across geopolitical zones, interest groups and support groups here and there. And the campaigns have started. We've gone around about 4 geopolitical zones now. We have 2 more to go then before we start state-by-state campaigns.
I was actually waiting for you to use the word campaigns have started, because look at the frenzy that, followed the emergence of your candidate, Atiku Abubakar, during the convention. It would seem as if that whole frenzy has died down.
No, I think you'll be mistaking a party primaries to presidential campaigns as it affects the entire country. When you have party primaries, aspirants will be jostling for delegates, and so there's likelihood that you will see a lot of frenzy.
No, we're talking about the outcome. After that convention, the outcome, there was this frenzy, and a lot of people saw it as something that was going to be bigger as we move towards 2019. It would seem as if it has dipped.
No, it hasn't. You see, once primaries are over and a candidate emerges, it is his responsibility and that of the party to also reach out to other aspirants that contested with him. Don't forget that Nigerians were waiting to see an implosion within the PDP because it paraded 12 presidential aspirants who in their own right have the capacity to be represented as candidates to fly the flag of the party. But now, when they didn't see that implosion coming, there was some kind of disappointment on the part of the ruling parties and other persons who felt that, PDP was going to implode. They have 12 parties. I was told personally that, don't worry, when you finish your primaries, you are going to implode and that will be another kettle of fish. But that didn't happen. So for the first time in the history of Nigerian politics, you have a primary populated by that number of persons, and after the primary, you still see them working together closely. Of course, there are a little hitches here and there, but they are not enough in any way to, to rule out the fact that they are very strong on ground in support of the candidature of Atiku Abubakar. And don't forget that even the choice of Peter Obi, created his own,
absolutely,
created his own.
It doesn't seem as if that has actually been swept under the carpet.
No, it's been settled now because the candidate, given his own democratic credentials of knowing how to network and reach out to people, has actually, cultivated the support and cooperation of those from the southeast.
What about the southeast governors?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's been able to reach out to them. He's been able to put the issues on the table. They've resolved issues because, in politics, it's all about constructive engagement, collective bargaining, and, try to dot the I's and cross the T's when issues of interest come to play. And whether you like it or not, one individual will naturally emerge as a vice presidential candidate, just the same way one individual emerges as a presidential candidate. So no matter your interests, you just have to, subsume yourself within the larger interests of the party for the sole purpose of ensuring that they present a formidable, candidature for the 2019 elections.
The 2019 elections, I think for the first time, Nigerians are saying this is going to be one of the biggest that will be issues-based. Time was when almost everything will be someone who's from the south versus someone who's from the, another region of the country. But this time we're having people who ultimately can easily be termed as brothers. Now, so what do you think, because you've actually seen a lot of big elections in Nigeria, what do you think is that big issue that should mold the talking point of our 2019 campaigns?
2 issues specifically, then the others can be added as additions. The first critical issue is the fact that Nigeria is heavily polarized along ethnic and religious lines. Whether you like it or not, if you go out to campaign, you see visible signs of these divisions. There is no unity. There are no platforms for people to engage either at the regional level or at the national level. The president is not the type that reaches out to people, geopolitical zones, interest group, and what have you. So rather than have a platform where people can congregate and discuss issues of national unity, it's just been like a monologue kind of.
But I thought that has always been.
And no, it's been worsened by the fact that realities on ground, occurrences here and there, have really deepened our polarization, and it shouldn't be. And that's why people are calling for restructuring. People want regional, platforms where they can aggregate their viewpoints and and present them and see how that affects the national, the national question, kind of. The second issue is insecurity. Insecurity has become so endemic. Just yesterday, about 27 persons were killed in Zamfara, and that place is almost becoming, bloodletting ground for quite a number of banditry activities and what have you. And what's the position of government? What are they doing about it? What effort have they put in place? You see, it's like leaving the issues to fertile for a long time, not taking holistic and clear-cut action to nip it in the bud. I remember vividly that there was a video clip that went viral where we saw some persons carrying guns with bullets and everything, intimidating residents of one particular local government in Sokoto State. And the statement that came out from the police hierarchy was that we should not be afraid that those are herdsmen. They came from Mali and they don't mean any harm. I wonder how you see a herdsman carrying motorbike with AK-47 with bullets and all of that, woven around them, and I begin to wonder. So to me, the insecurity in the country has become so terrible. Kidnappings, bloodletting.
So you're talking about a highly polarized and divided nation, an issue of security.
Yes, yeah.
But to me, they look like deja vu, that we've seen it before. Politicians, every 4 years, they use such as campaign issues, because we've always seen when politicians step forward to different communities, it all depends on the community you are, then they tell you that XYZ from this zone is against us, so you have to do it our own way. And one thought that by now we should have been able to get our way around it. What is the PDP bringing as a form of solution to these problems you just picked on?
As a corollary to this security we have in the country is the issue of job losses. In the last count, it's about 20.3 million persons have lost their job in the last 3 years. That's a figure that is alarming. It's a figure that is unsustainable. It's a figure that threatens even the very foundation of any country if you have people losing their jobs on a daily basis. So chances are that you have increase in insecurity and other criminal activities. Kidnapping is almost becoming a vocation now. It's an occupation that people, indulge in. Every day, if you read newspaper, you see this person is being kidnapped, that person is being kidnapped. The insecurity issue is not a deja vu kind of. I think if you take a critical look at what obtains now in the country, if you are a concerned Nigerian, you have every cause to express great worry about the future of this country. And I give you the typical example of a man who had just been killed barely a week ago, the former Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, former Chief of Defense Staff of the country. That's a huge responsibility under a man that served the country before he retired. And it's a man who has a lot of information about the country, a man who put in all his best. And he was just mauled down by some assailants just like chicken. So when, within the precinct of Abuja, coming into Abuja from Kefi Abuja Road, so that should tell you something about how we have got it wrong in the last 2-3 years, and we are not taking serious effort. We are not making any serious effort to ensure that we nip all of this in the bud. And I'm coming from the background of being a former APC member, because when we came on stream in 2015 campaigning for the president, we thought that given his military background and given his own antecedents as somebody who was a former Major General, he will have the cutting edge knowledge of how to address issues on intercity warfare, insurgency, and other internal security issues. But 3.5 years down the line, we are operating as at a worst case scenario, kind of. We are now worse off, because if you look at occurrences on a regular basis every day, you count a day as bonus if you don't see people or someone being killed. If you read newspapers, you see somebody being killed yesterday, somebody being killed the day before yesterday, somebody being killed almost every day. Nigeria is becoming, a bloodletting field, and it shouldn't be the narrative to drive the 21st century world, particularly in a country that has
as
so
this
much
has
challenges.
become worrisome for a lot of Nigerians, I just would want to go to quite a sad one on the death or the killing of Chief Alex Bade, something a lot of people would want to bring into politics, but it's an example you've just set, and it's very important that anyone who's actually reasonable should also look into that, because it's thumbs down to the country for letting that slide by. But coming back to the issue of security,
is the third general that has just been killed in the last 1.5 years.
Coming back to the issue of insecurity, which we really have to stay on, quite frankly, before we move on. Do you think your government, or your party rather, your party has what it takes? Because some of your people, you inclusive, they've been in government, out of government, and one would have thought that while they were in government, they should have been able to also sell some of these ideas on how to get the nation out of this mess. But now you're in the PDP, you're also, pointing accusing fingers at the governing party.
Even when I was in the APC, I was one of the internal critic of the APC. That if you check my antecedents, check my records, you'll see that I've written quite a number of articles, even as a member of APC, against the government. I never subscribed to the slow-paced attitude of Mr. President, particularly his response rate when issues of bloodletting and killings happen. I criticized him when the issue of 73 Benue souls were killed, and he was holding a meeting in the villa, talking about his 2019 elections with party chieftains, feasting them to a dinner, kind of. I felt at that period that a nation cannot lose 73 souls, and the president will not, take off almost immediately to the point of crisis, the flashpoint. What's the distance between Makurdi and Abuja? Makurdi is accessible by flight. The president can just take a helicopter and go to Makurdi and speak to the people, so that they will have that spirit of belongingness that, yes, they are being recognized by the president, who presides over the collective aspirations of the people across the country. But that didn't happen. We have scenarios in Taraba. It didn't happen until it almost becoming like pushing the president to go and act. I don't think that is the kind of leadership we need in the 21st century Nigeria. And given our disparities, our ethnic configurations, our tribal leanings, and political persuasions, you need to find an aggregate, rallying point in a president who will represent certain ideals. That
does your candidate have that quality, or those qualities?
Of course, he has. He has, not just that he has, he's a man who also connects with the people, having been around for the past 30 years playing active politics. You don't forget that.
Connections or connecting with the people sometimes could mean so many things to a lot of people. So perhaps maybe we can actually be more specific.
Yeah, for a man who has been around, who participated even in a presidential campaign, primary as far back as 1992, 93, for someone who has been in active politics since then, he will be different from, someone who has been was contesting elections, almost like divided the country into two under CPC, ANPP, until this coalition and merger kind of gave opportunity to him to become president. And Atiku Abubakar, don't forget, is an employer of labor, is a creator of wealth. So he has.
That's still very much debatable when people talk about wealth creation. Sometimes, there's always been the argument of how much talking about figures and percentage of what that truly he's been able to do.
Well, because
it looks so bogus every time. Your party members, they say he's created wealth, and we're looking for the figure so that we can actually put this before the debates come, and we still haven't been able to say, okay, this is the amount, percentage-wise, that he's been able to plow in.
If an individual is able to run businesses that accommodates or provide employment for over 50,000 persons, I think that individual should be commended. He's got a lot of companies, a lot of conglomerations, so to that extent, he has provided platforms for people to also take home. And don't forget the multiplier effect of that, because when you take a family and a family as your employee, the salary you are paying is not just for that individual alone. It's going to affect his own wife, children, and what have you. And for an individual to consistently maintain that kind of level of business relationship with people, irrespective of where you come from as a Nigerian, that to me is the national consensus in terms of job creation. Because he doesn't say because you're a northerner you can't work in my place, or because you are from South you can't work in my place. In fact, some of his best friends are from the South, that part of the country. And so for me, he has been able to run businesses successfully. People have not had anyone who says his company folded up and as a result of bad management and what have you. So such a man who can manage men and resources will be better suited to manage the collective aspirations, and collective patrimony of the country than a man whose antecedent we only know that he was overthrown in 1985, August 27 to be specific. In 1996, he became chairman of Petroleum Trust Fund, which is being described as Petroleum Trust Fraud. After that, nothing. He went into politics and campaigning.
Who described it as Petroleum Trust Fraud?
I read an article by Ray Ekpo where he unveiled a lot of fraud that went under PTF.
Did he bring that before any of the investigating? Because he was just writing.
I say it was described. Description, it doesn't take away the fact that somebody said it. And secondly, Obasanjo, under Obasanjo's government, there was a probe, and there was a report.
But there wasn't an indictment.
There won't be an indictment.
Because I followed that report.
Yeah, there won't be an indictment. There won't be an indictment because Obasanjo, the former president, was trying to protect one of their own. So, but when you look at the figures...
Do you think President Obasanjo would have protected President Buhari if there was...
When you look at the figures of that report, if you read that report and look at the recommendations, you will know that there was an indictment.
If there was anything dirty about that, I don't think, because going by what we saw then, I don't think President Obasanjo would have actually, covered up for President Buhari.
For those who work closely with Obasanjo, former Minister Fani Kayode is one of them. He did say the circumstances under which they decided not to implement that report. And so, for such a man, the next thing we heard about is that he has some cows, he tenders some cows, and he manages some cows. And this cow, I believe, in my own estimation, the man should be able to manage them to the point that they become so productive to the extent that he will be able to raise 45 million to buy his nomination form.
It's amazing. It's amazing you didn't even bring this before him while you were still a member of the APC. So, Mr. President, could you tell us this whole story about
we don't have access.
About the gist about your farm and your cows? But you were comfortable there.
We don't have access. We don't have access to the president as at that time.
While you were there,
I was a member of APC,
you never had access to the party hierarchy or party leadership.
You can have access to
party leadership as well. You can.
Don't forget. Look at APC. I am one of those who criticize APC party structure on the basis that it was not responding to the challenges of governance, because it was a major kind of party. And after election, having been given power, they hit the rock, trying to find out how best to manage the country. You have different shades of opinion. Vincent Strange Bedfellow, the CPC arm were tendering to themselves, the ACN were tendering to themselves, the AMPP were tendering to themselves, and all of that. So you have this kind of collections of different interest groups, marooned within the same APC party, each one competing for relevance in terms of who takes the shot on issues. And I'll give you a typical example of how the party got itself shot on the foot. When the issue of Senate presidency came, you saw the whole drama that attended it. While this particular group was saying they will produce the Senate president, this group was saying that they will produce the Senate president. In the final analysis, the party couldn't even take a position. And it gave birth to distinguished Senator Olusola Bukola Saraki as Senate president. And the party was now blaming. He said, Ahmed Lawan should have been the Senate president. This one. Who says that?
And you don't see the PDP getting into that mess, because as it is now, we have so many people from different blocks coming into the PDP now. For instance, we have more than one spokesperson for your campaign organization, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
Doesn't that show that, well, there might be conflict, you know,
No,
at the end of the day?
You see,
one would have thought that
it
we had
shows-
just, maybe you say, Mr. A is a spokesperson, but we have A,
No.
B, C, is it 3 or 4? Four spokespersons?
Eight of us.
8.
8 of us. That is the beauty of a party that understands the word coordination, the word synergy, the word understanding. You know, a party that can connect amongst its own members to the extent that they can recruit 8 persons to speak, and there are no contradictions because the issues are almost on a consensus basis. We have, I tell people that elections of 2019 is all about a referendum against poverty, against hunger, against malnutrition, against unemployment. I just saw pictures now of some children that are suffering from malnutrition because state governments are not buying into this program. They have, what is it called now?
The school feeding program.
Yeah, the school feeding program, what have you. There's a particular program, and they are not buying into it. They are not paying their counterpart funds on those kind of programs so that they can feed children who cannot afford 3 square meals. We have gotten to a point that 88 million Nigerians are suffering under, are now suffering under extreme poverty ratio, and Nigerians are beginning to see that this leadership that preached change in 2015 no longer fits into their mood and aspirations. Whether you like it or not, sentiments apart, Nigeria has been seriously, disfigured in terms of our national psyche, in terms of our nationalism, in terms of our unity of purpose, in terms of cohesion, in terms of even having that platform for us to discuss issues of nationality. And that is why the PDP will seem to be the ideal platform for now to wrestle power from this particular APC, because APC has not shown a clear-cut understanding of the dynamics of a Nigerian that is in trouble.
Let's close on this. What makes you think the PDP, because this is the PDP that has been accused of all sorts, with the coming of this administration, almost everyone who's been fingered, we're members of the PDP.
I don't buy into those kind of narratives. You know why? When members of the PDP defected to APC at formation, they were received, with open arms. They were worshipped, adored, celebrated. They brought out money. They contributed to campaigns. They provided private jets. The president flew around the country campaigning for election and all of that. When they won the election, rather than sit down in a typical fashion to say, this is the party, we have won, let us articulate our issues and see who best fits into the positions of cabinet so that we can deliver the change agenda that we preached. They didn't do that. The president sat in his cocoon. It was almost not available to anybody.
With this, it would seem as if you're saying to Nigerians, well, the PDP is the APC and the APC is the PDP. Nigerians look to a third force.
No, it's not about PDP being APC.
Because you just said when they moved over.
Yes, what I'm telling you is that why is it convenient for them to say when they now move back to PDP, it is that time you now discover that they are corrupt. It is that time you now begin to witch hunt them, and selectively, prosecute them because you feel that they are going to be a stumbling block to your own aspiration. The point is, for 2019, it is not about PDP. It is not about Atiku. It is about what Nigerians desire to see in the 21st century world and using the PDP as a vehicle to realize that. That's why I told you that it's a consensus kind of, it's a referendum kind of, because we cannot continue to rotate on the same axis and you want to make progress. You cannot continue to allow people to be killed wantonly, everyday bloodletting killings in this country, as if we don't have a commander-in-chief of the armed forces, as if we don't have a president who understands the issues and the dynamics in the country. So for me, as a Nigerian, I have elected that I will vote Atiku Abubakar, I will vote for PDP to the extent that it will represent a turning point in the politics of the country for 2019.
I think it's a fine place for us to leave it. Many thanks for spending time with us. Kasim Efegbua, spokes.
Except that you didn't give me anything from your kitchen.
And when we're done, the kitchen or everything is switched off today.
You see, this is the impact of APC. Hunger, poverty, everything. You know, insecurity, everything.
We take a moment and
There's
we'll
no
come
prosperity
back.
in APC.
Stay with us.